The team from IEEE at UCI. I'm Robert Rodriguez.
I'm Cal.
And I'm Urban Huang. And today we'll be presenting our ethics competition.
So we'll start off with our case facts. So, engineer area has worked at a U.S. government defense agency. He accepts a new position, a new executive position with Supercom, an equipment provider for the military. Upon starting at Supercom, the engineer area is informed by a manager by another division of Supercom. And that he's told that a key test on an important product is not being performed in the manner specified by the government contract. After further looking into this matter, he concludes that looking at the matter being substituted and concludes that the test being performed is just as effective as the test being specified on the contract. He reports this to executive management that the test be not being pursued properly, and from there on, the executive management decides, and he advises the executive management to revise the contract with the defense agency to say that it's okay for them to use the alternative test. Unfortunately, so Supercom executives decide not to update the contract specifications and continue to perform the alternative test and keep the contract specifications. From there, engineering A decides not to pursue the matter any further. Which brings us to our question.
Okay, so the question is, was it ethical for engineer A to not pursue the matter further? So here's what we come up from the IEEE Code of Ethics. So code number 2 is to avoid real or perceived conflicts of interest. Code number 3 is to be honest and realistic in stating claims or estimates based on available data. Number 5 is to improve the understanding of technology, its appropriate application and potential consequences. Code number 7 is to acknowledge and correct errors. So we'll discuss more about each one of that in the next slides. So first is to avoid real or perceived conflicts of interest. So as it states in our code of ethics problem, so engineer A wants to start out on the right foot with Supercom. So it implies that so he wants to that's the conflict of interest because he wants to impress his supervisor, his superior, so he will not continue pursuing the matter. And the next one is so to be honest and realistic about stating claims or estimates based on available data. So according to the contract with the Department of Defense, so Supercom, so they should use the test procedure from the department, from the DoD. But in fact, they are using a different substitute, which is cheaper, and we are not sure how accurate that is. So an engineer A, he knows about this, but because he wants to keep the good impression with with his superiors, so he stopped pursuing the matter. And I will switch to Urban.
Yeah, so as On said before, the unrealistic data, one result of that could be potential consequences. The exact quote is to improve the understanding of technology, its appropriate application, and potential consequences. So as you're given in the case study, engineer A does have extensive knowledge of the testing method in which that they're doing an alternative testing method, and he tested it and he found out, hey, this is cheaper and it's just as effective as the one in the contract. However, even though he has extensive knowledge of the testing method, there could be a 1% chance, a really minute detail that he could have missed. And this minute detail could lead to a total disaster in the project, as you guys see in the Challenger space shuttle explosion or the Intel chip recall. These minute details can result in a total disaster for the project. And again, even though he does have this knowledge, it's not a foolproof way. So moving on to the next one, to acknowledge and correct errors. In this case, we're defining the error as the fact that there is a certain method defined in that contract, and they are not following that method. They're using their own method, which is cheaper, but just as effective. We're defining that as the error. So they're acknowledging it, but they're not correcting it. So in conclusion, we reached that it was unethical for engineering A to not pursue this matter further and to drop it. Our recommended actions are, for the conflict of interest, is to keep personal interests out of his decision-making process. It's tough to do that because when you make a decision, usually you're thinking about yourself, so we recommend using a third-party mediator to try this, or in addition, possibly seeking higher levels of management if needed. In terms of being realistic and stating claims, we believe that he should continue his pursuit of updating the terms of contract with this testing method. For potential consequences, we believe he should ask his coworkers for their input on this alternative testing method. It is true, he is the expert on this method, but it never hurts to get someone else's input. They could catch some tiny detail that you might have missed. And again, for acknowledging and correcting errors, we believe he should again continue to pursue updating the terms of contract with the condition that he should document each step along the way, because documentation is a very important part of the engineering process. It's sort of CYOA as well as a paper trail in case they decide to investigate this claim further. And that concludes our presentation. Any questions?
Yeah, very good. One question is that one element of your analysis was that, hey, this alternate form of testing is missing something, or could be missing something.
Could be.
Let's say that it's not. Is there still an ethics problem here?
So we believe, yes, it should be, because like we should. So at least Supercom, like, so they should change the contract, right, and say that, like, okay, so because we found out some different solution, and they should change the contract with the DoD.
Right. Because the contract states they're supposed to be using this testing method. This is the one that's been, tested and approved. I'm assuming, the DoD has gone through, a whole entire process to say this is the process too.
It's going to affect how much money they make, right?
Yeah.
So, what would be the appropriate action to change the contract?
So we said, like, try to follow up again with the management, saying, okay, this is, the contract needs to be changed. Right now, we're not following our contract. We're violating the terms of our contract. So if I'll try to follow up with management there, if that fails, try to bring in like a company mediator or some other third party. And from there, like very last case of action. Maybe you have to go to the Department of Defense, be a whistleblower.
Have you thought about maybe a deviation or a waiver?
Unfortunately, I'm not familiar.
We actually have nothing. Could you expand upon that?
When you have a contract and you got several things you have to do, and A, you can't do it, B, it can't be done, or C, you have an alternative method, or D, you just want to take it out. There are vehicles that you change the contract with. One says, we're sorry, and they agree and they let you off the hook. The other says, no, we're sorry, but you're going to have to give us money back. We paid you for that test and you're doing something else, so you give the money back. Okay? So, deviation, waiver. Okay?
So which one was the deviation waiver against?
So when you deviate from something, you're changing, right?
Yes.
Okay? And the waiver says,
Nope.
we're not going to do it.
Or they take the money back.
Money back.
What are the steps and in which order do you think engineer A should take at this point? What do you think he should do first?
First, like per the IEEE guideline recommendations, it said he should make sure that he really understands the problem. Like spend at least a day or two looking over the testing methods and make sure that everything he presents to the managers is 100% correct. So that in case I was engineer, you guys are grilling me and you ask me, oh, like is test step number 2, is that correct? I would not go, I'd be like, yes, I'm positive it's correct.
So now as management says, thank you, we're going to continue doing what we're doing and charging the way we're charging, now what does he do?
Well, now he's stuck in an ethical dilemma where...
So I think we should talk to like a mediator.
Is that an external mediator? Someone outside?
So bring in like a third party.
Is there anything you could do internally before going outside?
try maybe talking to kind of like how because in the case study, it's an employee that's not directly reported to him, it's outside of the department. So maybe try and come someone at the similar level of his upper management, try to bring another party in from inside the company
Good
to
idea.
mediate. So
Or
there's all the
maybe,
same.
what about like an ethics or an internal governance organization?
Yeah, like exactly. That'd be perfect in
Or
a situation.
a
Something that's
legal-
legal specifically for this. We go to the legal team, or maybe there's like an ethical branch inside there.
So what other avenues could he have pursued?
He can go up the levels of management and kind of bypass his direct boss, but then he risks, pissing off his boss and.
No,
jumping
that's
in.
guaranteed, he will.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean,
Ask
so
for
there's-
permission, go ahead, go on, follow your thought.
So if he does pursue the upper levels of management, I would personally look at this person as a individual. Does he have a network within this company? Does he talk to other people outside his own department, If he's just an engineer that sits in his cubicle, goes in to work every day, then if he talks to upper level management who has never seen him before.
Well, he's an executive though, right?
Yeah.
You stated in your first slide that he's an executive.
Yeah, he's an executive, but I guess he's still a junior level executive.
Yeah, so he got in the company as the new executive.
Well, he's still executive, but I'm sure obviously he's reporting to other executives higher than he is.
Sure.
There's
So
a whole
there is a chain of command,
there.
but what I'm saying is that as he goes up this chain of command, if he has never previously contacted these people, or never said hi to Bob and HR or whatever, then he stands a huge risk if they don't know who he is, and they're gonna be like, oh, well, forget you, go talk to your own boss. Then his boss finds out, it's like, I can't believe you tried to bypass me, like, I'm putting you on the worst projects ever from now on.
So his first step is he can follow up again with his own boss. Try to make a second appeal to his boss. Okay,
How should he have appealed to his boss?
So he should get like
What
Irwin was
form
saying.
of communication method should he have used?
Well, the most, I guess the best one would be, so face to face, like maybe maybe you can make an appointment with your boss, but okay, I still feel that we need to discuss this contract that, we're not
I
following.
missed how he should communicate with him.
Like how we should set up the appointment and everything.
How should he communicate this problem to his boss? Should he text him? Should he call him on the phone? Should
Okay, so
he email
that's
him?
the exact method of communication. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I should definitely, hopefully, he's the boss, someone he's going to actually contact, so it depends on the hierarchy of the whole structure, but yeah, ideally, if you can just come up to the office and say, okay, maybe we can set up a time, do a face-to-face interaction. I would still like to pursue this, talk this a little bit over, so you can maybe set up like an appointment later on the day or next week, so, because, they'll come up to him and be like, I would like to further pursue this, so that way he knows, you're not just sending him a text, saying that, okay, I just had a passing idea about this, you're actually, putting your foot forward.
Yes.
Is this a legal issue?
So the legal.
Is this ethical dilemma a legal issue?
Let me see. So it is not, because so assume that the newly, so they're spending a lot of money on this project, and the company tried to use a cheaper solution to get some profit for them, so it's not legal.
So based on that, if I was to contract to come paint your house, and you give me $1,000 to paint your house, and you pick the color, and then I come out there and I just wash it and tell you, oh, it didn't need painting and washing. Now, do you have legal grounds against me for substituting the product?
So I think the legal stuff is based on the contract. So if it's if it's written in paper, so they should follow step by step, not just.
So is it illegal or not?
It's illegal.
It's legal? It's binding? The contract is legal and binding?
Say that again.
When you sign a contract or an agreement to do something, is that not legal and binding? Enforceable in court of law?
I want to help you out. The answer is yes. It's a legal binding document. That's why it's called a contract.
Okay. What we're trying to get you to look at is the fact that not only is it unethical, but there are other consequences based around your decisions that you make. Never looked at ethics as an island. Look at ethics as a component of an overarching situation that can have severe consequences across the board, all the way up to being speared. You know what being speared means? When the government spears you, you do no business with the government ever again.
So my question to you about how should he, Robert, communicate to his management? What I was looking for was written.
That's the paper trail that Irvin was.
What is the one thing that engineers must do of all of their actions?
Documents.
Document, 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 document. So if you have a situation that can bite you, a situation that puts you in harm's way, a situation that gets you terminated, a situation that can get you never ever to get a promotion again, lose your raise, lose everything. The office on the corner with a window with a view, everything you got. So when that comes, you have to document. So the correct answer is you must write it down. So that when they come back and do the investigation, you'll say, well, you know, I wrote my boss on this date and made him aware of the situation. As soon as you make them aware of it in writing, it's now their problem too. So don't just copy people on email just to copy the boss's 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 boss, because that is career limiting. Just your boss. That's all you need. Okay? So, with that said, have you looked at a situation where the engineer, knowing that it was being substituted, has the knowledge of all the tests and everything? Do you think there's another way that this engineer could have gone?
Another way? He hasn't actually gone away.
No, not another way. Another is another option of what could the engineer have done.
I guess in further pursuing this method.
Well, yeah, but what do you think other avenues they could have pursued?
I think he could go like cross department and just head over to the legal team and be like, hey guys, I know you guys actually care about this company from a legal perspective, like, and maybe see if you can recruit them to your cause, just purely from a legal basis. Like, these guys, like, you know, these guys are really cool. My boss, he really wants to get this project on time, but I'm really worried this small part of this project could, you know, could nail the whole company pretty much. What do you guys think, you know? Again, just like one or two people, maybe like a guy in the HR department or lawyer department that he knows very well, you know, get lunch with them kind of thing.
Lawyer
Do you think
person.
there was someone who actually put a signature on that contract?
Yes, so definitely get that person, the one that actually signed the contract.
Well, the contract administrator, there's actually a person in company that actually
Yeah,
deals
so
with it.
make sure you're making sure that that
That's
person.
called the contracting officer.
Yes, you could definitely contract that, but if that's not the person who's the manager that you're reporting to, then find out. who they
That
are.
is the person that represents the corporation or the company.
Exactly.
So the engineer A decided, I'm gonna let this ride, I'm gonna enjoy my executive position and all the perks, and I don't wanna rock the boat. How do you think this ends now? How do you think, what happens now? How do you think this whole story ends?
Realistically, nothing happens. The product is delivered fine. But on that, you know, maybe 1%, 2%, 3% chance, something blows up, people die. The government, huge, you know, media outline,
You know,
blah, blah, blah companies.
I tell you, I don't think anything has to blow up. You know, there's a lot of people at this company, there's a lot of people with a phone. You know, when these things happen, people find out, it always comes out. It's always gonna come out. So how does it end?
They got fired.
The company goes under, engineer A loses that job he was trying to protect.
Like Manny was saying, the company gets speared, no more contracts for them, there's just, there's.
Doesn't end well.
Okay. One other thing. Just so that you know that you can't put nothing under the carpet, sweep it under the rug, and hope for the best. There's an individual. Their title is the Chief Systems Engineer, i.e. me. My job is to verify and validate that all the requirements were met. I have to go before the customer and provide exhibit A, B, C, D, documents, test results, and everything, procedures, processes, and everything there is to prove that the requirements were met. Okay? So don't think for a minute that they're not going to find out, because I will do diligence and my people will look everywhere and everything to see that everything was done correctly. If you don't document something and you do something, you might well not have done it. Everything must be documented and submitted for proof. So don't think you're going to get away with it. Ethics is doing the right thing when no one's
No
looking.
one's looking.
However, the legal system will always find it. You're not going to escape. So, the ethical question was this engineer ethical in their choice? And you've determined that all these things could have gone. So your conclusion was that the engineer was what? Not ethical. Based on what? And you gave us all your answers, right? So what we're telling you is, even though the engineer was unethical, you got to look to the big picture. There are legal consequences. There are corporate consequences. Well, what if the customer that's buying this product, 3 years from now, it fails, and the guarantee is for 50 years to operate? So what is your company going to do every 3 years when this part fails?
So you have to replace it.
Replace, repair, okay? You're going to incur costs. So do you think when Toyota recalls 500,000 cars, what does that do to their profit line?
Drops away.
Okay, so what does it do to those people that were in charge of that product line?
Probably get fired.
There'll be disciplinary action, right? So think of all the consequences that go with that. So ethics is key. It's very important that you do the right thing. Even if you know you're going to catch it for it, or someone may get fired, or there's going to be some really, really hard things to pay. Okay.
So if I may, on the code, you listed some numbers, that you got.
2357.
Yeah, which was really very good. My question was, there's a clause in there, number 10, about assisting colleagues, coworkers in their development and supporting them in following this code of ethics. Did you think employee A supported this manager from another division when he brought this up?
He definitely did. He went to his executives, his people he replies to, and said, we found out about this, problem, and we're trying to rectify it. But then,
I'm going to cut you off and say, no, he didn't.
Because he didn't follow through.
He didn't follow through,
He
right?
tried-
This person is still hanging, right?
Yeah.
And there's a reason why he went out of his stovepipe to another executive, right? Because that might indicate that this behavior is sanctioned, right? And he wouldn't get recourse there. So he goes outside the organization to another guy, and the guy does nothing. Yes?
Yes, so I could see how, yes, he was not helping.
Okay.
He tried to help, but then he just didn't have to follow through with it.
Just one more question. Would you work for this company if they offered you a job and you knew this was happening?
We don't want to be part of a company that's complying with, being okay with not following their contracts, not keeping their words.
Very good.
I got one more question. Was engineer A leader?
Leader in
Team lead,
Was he a
IPT
leader?
lead, supervisor,
Was he a leader-
manager.
Was he a leader of people? Was he a leader you want to follow?
no.
He was not a leader, or yes, he was a leader?
No.
He's not a leader.
He tried to be, but like I said, the follow through wasn't there. He wasn't there to, help out the guy that came to him.
Define it a little further. Did he have engineers reporting to him? Did he have engineers reporting to him?
No, he got like someone from different department, and then
So he was an engineer that reported to somebody, but he wasn't the one that they reported to.
It never specified in the case study, it just said he was given an executive position,
Well, he's
but another
executive position.
manager of another division brought it to him. So he probably has people under him.
So under his title, he's definitely classified as a leader, but
Okay.
with his actual with his actual actions, he doesn't have
Wasn't a
like
lot of
qual-
leadership.
Exactly,
Yeah,
there's
it's not
leadership
that.
qualities.
Round of applause.
Thank you.
Actually, I wanted to flip the question at you guys and ask, say you were in this company for 10 or so years, and your coworker who's also been in the same company for 10 or so years, he comes up and he's like, hey, Habib, I've noticed, our testing procedures aren't as tight as they used to be, should we do something about it? Our budget's running kind of low, the training budget's kind of low, and Jake's been getting on me about putting this project on time. If we don't deliver, I don't know, we could get some layoffs or something, What would you guys do in this scenario, in which a close friend or a coworker you have experience with is approaching you for, he's basically telling you there's something faulty, but to correct it would push this deadline back. And all the top executives.
Well, wait a minute. The next team is here, so we can't discuss it.
Okay,
We'll
yeah.
follow up after.
Yeah.
Just remember.